Hello, food bloggers. Welcome to Eat Blog Talk, the podcast for food bloggers looking for the value and confidence that will move the needle forward in your business. I am your host, Megan Porta, and you are listening to episode 272, sponsored by RankIQ. In this episode, I will take you through the best parts of this podcast and Eat Blog Talk as a whole from 2021, from fan favorites to my own most meaningful takeaways and insights. Before we dig into all of that amazingness, I'm going to take just a minute here to share about some of the resources available here at Eat Blog Talk that give you a chance to connect, gain confidence, dig into food blogging in a new way, and just level up in your business growth. So obviously we have a huge database of podcast episodes. If you are new here, go through the archives and see what stands out to you and give as many as you can a listen. There's also a free discussion forum. Don't forget about that at forum.eatblogtalk.com, where we are talking about all things food blogging. It's a free place to go outside of Facebook. I am not a huge fan of Facebook, so I love having this separate. There's a lot of supportive food bloggers over there, so hop on over and check it out. The mastermind program, we just filled our first group. I'm so excited to dig in with these 10 awesome ladies in 2022. We are going to have an entire year together to grow and learn in such a massive way. There is so much magic already happening inside. If you are interested in joining the next round of masterminds, I will start a new group sometime in the spring. I will give you more information as I know it, but for now you can join the waitlist at eatblogtalk.com. Follow the button to join the waitlist for the mastermind program. You'll fill out a short survey and you'll be on there. I will contact you within the next few weeks and months with more information. If you are interested in one-on-one coaching, that is always an option. I do have a very limited number of spots that I have available for that, just as a way to protect and honor my own time. So if you're interested, send me an email and I can get you more information. And I'm going to remind you, please go to your favorite podcast player and subscribe or follow, rate, and review Eat Blog Talk. This adds massive value to the podcast and it takes you about 2 minutes of your life. I so appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. And while I'm on the note of gratitude, I have to say thank you to all of you, to every single person listening right now. Thank you for listening to the podcast episodes that I have the pleasure of putting together for you, for food bloggers. Thank you for showing up consistently and for supporting Eat Blog Talk in countless ways. Thank you for the emails that you send me and the messages that you send filled with encouragement, because honestly, there are times when I wonder if things are landing, if it's working. So thank you for being that person who reaches out and tells me that it is. Also, just thanks for showing up. Thank you for being the type of person that doesn't give up. You work hard and you work passionately. You are an incredible food blogger. And thank you for putting those values out into this space. Together, we are lifting up the food blogging community and raising our vibe. We're raising our energy and our values. So I just want you to know how grateful I am for all of you and for this amazing community. 2021 was an absolutely epic year for Eat Blog Talk. The moment the calendar turned over to 2021, things started to change in a really good way, immediately just shot uphill. Suddenly, the podcast was gaining a lot of momentum on a whole new scale than it had been previously. The guests who I have had the honor of interviewing were just crushing it in their interviews. There was some sort of magic that was coming through the second the calendar turned over to 2021. As far as guests go, all of my guests have been amazing, but 2021 was like a huge level up in that realm. The vibe of this entire network, this entire company platform known as Eat Blog Talk was through the roof, and that momentum has only been increasing since then. Setting the podcast aside for just a moment, here are some of the finer points from the year for Eat Blog Talk. We started the year still having a membership portal. That membership is now gone as we knew it then, But from that, we grew so many connections with people. I made so many friends during the course of that membership. We had tons of Zoom calls that were really valuable and really powerful, and that also produced really powerful transformations for people. The membership last summer, so summer of 2021, transformed into a mastermind program. That program has evolved a little bit. So I started out hosting quarterly calls, and now they are going to be yearly programs, so 12-month commitment. Both the quarterly and now this new program are off the charts, powerful and magical. And I know I say that all the time, but you guys, it's so true. It's incredible what is happening inside of these groups. It's a powerhouse, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here. It can only go up. I believe that. And one other thing to mention outside of the podcast, and that is the retreat that we hosted in October of 2021. Melissa Erdelak from Mama Gourmand and I hosted this retreat in Minneapolis, Minnesota, here where I live. And it was the most value-packed 3 days of my year. It was hands down just one of the best experiences that I've had as a food blogger and as an entrepreneur, connecting with 8 incredible women in a house where we just spent really intensive time together and learned one-on-one some really valuable stuff. So kind of a little teaser here. Eat Blog Talk will be hosting some retreats in 2022. I'm thinking of hosting at least 3, possibly more. So if you're interested in those, I don't have a page set up yet. I will, but in the meantime, just send me an email and mention that you are interested in being a part of an upcoming retreat. On the podcast front, I will share a few numbers with you. In 2021, we published 104 new episodes. A few of those were replays, but I think only maybe 3 or 4 at tops. There were 81,030 unique downloads of episodes in 2021, which is amazing. And just looking at my numbers on the stats of my podcast hosting, here are the top 5 most downloaded and listened to podcasts in 2021. Number 1, by far, by the way, was episode number 167 with Casey Marquis, where he talked about SEO priorities for 2021. Everyone loves Casey. He gives such great information about SEO to food bloggers, and this episode did not disappoint. We have 2021 in the title, but this would apply to so many things that you're doing now. So if you haven't listened to that, go give it a listen. Episode number 239 came in second place with Shruthi Baskaran, and it's titled From 0 to 75K Sessions in 15 Months, Focusing on Just SEO, 6 Lessons Learned. And she talks us through so many really cool things from the standpoint of a blogger instead of an SEO expert, which I think made it extra valuable. Number 3 was episode number 164 with Laura Arteaga, and she talked about utilizing underrated strategies for quick blog growth. That was an amazing episode recorded really early in 2021. Number 4 is episode number 227, Food Blog SEO versus Recipe SEO with Leanne Walker. Another incredible episode on the theme of SEO. And she delivers some really great information about what recipe SEO means and how to really get your recipe card honed in so that Google favors your content a little bit more. And number 5 was episode number 170 with Debbie Gartner, titled Affiliate Marketing Strategies That Work. Now, Debbie's story, if you have not listened to this, you need to go listen to it because it is an incredible story of just finding money through affiliate income out of necessity. She was in a really tough spot financially, and she openly talks about that in the episode. And she talks about how she dug into affiliate marketing and made it work on a really successful level. So be sure to listen to that one. Now, outside of my stats numbers, I did a little bit of digging in my Instagram account and also in my direct messages and emails to see what episodes people were talking to me about most and sending comments about. So there are a couple here that really stood out. The first one is episode number 248. This is a pretty recent episode that I recorded with Sandra Flagg, and she talks about going from 0 to 50K sessions in 14 months because of web stories. And she shares so much about web stories inside this episode, some really valuable stuff that resonated with food bloggers. After hearing that episode, so many food bloggers took it upon themselves to dig into web stories in a new way. They had all the information they needed. They had the confidence. They heard a story from Sandra that worked, so they knew they could do it too. And a ton of people reached out to me and said, thanks to Sandra, I'm now getting tons of traffic from web stories. I mean, so many people. So thank you, Sandra, for that amazing content that you shared. Next was my series that I did with Lauren Runyon from the Align and Expand podcast. We did a series together from fall into November about getting outside your comfort zone. And I got so much good feedback about that series. People loved it because it was a little bit outside the scope of, quote, food blogging and into that realm of mindset that really matters. I think people, after hearing our episodes, understood that mindset is huge, and getting uncomfortable is a really good way to assure quick growth in your blogging business. Tons of people reached out to me and said, thank you so much for putting this together with Lauren. It really spoke to me. We focused on a few different aspects within the series. So we produced a money episode, one about people and one about getting blog traction. And I would say the one that resonated the most, based on what people told me, was the money episode. So be sure to listen to all 4 of those. Another episode that food bloggers really seemed to love was episode number 246 with Chelsea Cole from A Duck's Oven. I love Chelsea. She's such an awesome person and friend. And she actually approached me with the idea for this episode because people had been noticing that she just seemed to accomplish so dang much. She published a cookbook over the summer. She kept up with her blog content. She was speaking at virtual conferences and doing many, many other things. So people started asking her, like, how can you do all of this? How is this possible? So we put together an episode where she really gave people permission to not feel like you have to do it all and you don't have to be perfect. And one of her lines in the episode is prioritization over balance. Her main message was that sometimes it's just okay to stop working, to not do it all, and to put projects on hold. Even if you have to put your blog on hold to get a cookbook done, it's okay. You don't have to be perfect and you don't have to appear perfect. So many people reached out to me saying, wow, this really gave me permission to set some things down. Thank you so much, Chelsea. The last fan favorite that I can think of that I got a lot of comments on was episode number 177 with Megan Horowitz. And we talked about taking big blogging risks for big rewards. Megan was awesome in this episode. I think she's just a really well-liked person, a human being, but people really loved the stuff that she shared inside this episode. And she focused on leaning into those moments that encourage you to take a leap of faith and move forward in your blogging business that will give you the boldness to grow and keep taking those steps forward. And of course, I have to share my own highlights, things that stood out in my mind, not based on any numbers or what other people were saying, but things that I remember from the year that I really loved. There were a handful of episodes I recorded when I finished, I would just think, holy crap, that was such a good interview. So those stood out in my mind. I knew it was really good if I got on Marco Polo after and talked to my VA who looks at all of my transcripts and show notes and said, Melissa, oh my gosh, my interview with XYZ was amazing. You're going to love it. That was a sign that it was a really good episode and a highlight for me. I'm going to run through a few of these, and I pulled out my favorite quotes from each one. I hope this does not take too long. I will try to go through this quickly. But I have to mention episode 200 first and foremost because It was with John Lee Dumas. He is the reason I started this podcast. He's an awesome entrepreneur and podcaster and inspired me to take the leap into podcasting. I'm just a huge fan of his. So having him on my show was such an honor. And if you haven't listened to that episode, go do it. It's really short and sweet. So inside of the episode, he talked about the magic of the micro niche. So really figuring out what that one specific thing is that you're solving for people, what that problem is, solve it and do it well and do it consistently. And one of the things that he said that I really loved was how it's painful to grow in business. It's painful to do a lot of the things that we do. Yes, that's valid. However, it is also painful to be broke and to live paycheck to paycheck and to not know when or where money is coming from. So that gave me such a great visual in my mind, and I carry it with me still to this day. Both options are painful, so which pain would I rather have? And I'm definitely choosing the pain of growing, which leads into that whole getting out of your comfort zone thing. So it all kind of comes around. I am going to hop all over the place with this because I didn't write these in order. I just wrote these in the order that I was remembering them. So the next one that I remembered was episode number 204 with Jay Shear. It's called Take Action and Transform Your Business. This actually came from a Zoom call I did when the membership was still alive. I brought Jay into a Zoom call with my members, and he talked about taking action. And at the end of that call, that was one of the calls where I was like, what? That was insanely inspiring. I could hardly even believe it. My mind was blown. So I took that Zoom recording and I turned it into a podcast interview. He shares so much good stuff in that episode. If you are looking for some great inspiration to just dig into your business in a new way and take action and be inspired, give that a listen. Here is one of my favorite quotes from within that episode. Jay says, "I'm very intentional these days. I wasn't in the past until I began to learn the impact of who I am surrounding myself with and also what I'm consuming. The people make such a tremendous difference. They can either give you energy or they can suck energy from you. So be very, very intentional, because I'm sure we've all had that experience before where when we're around others who they're excited about life, they're excited about what they're doing, they seem to be motivated people. They have a purpose in life. They love to talk about things and challenge each other and help each other grow and support. When you're around people like that, you feel better. You're lifted up. It's an incredible feeling." I met this amazing friend named Sandy Waters from a different group that I'm in for podcasters. Sandy is a podcaster herself, but she's most well known for being an amazing radio show host. I think she's an award-winning morning radio show host in New York. I don't think she is. And she is just such an awesome person too. She's so vibrant and bubbly. And I mean, she has like the best voice on the planet. So I just love listening to her. But I asked her to come join me in episode 253. And she agreed. I was so grateful for it. She talked about how we can use proven radio broadcasting strategies to grow a loyal fan base, no matter where you are broadcasting. So even as a food blogger. I loved this episode. It was one of the ones that I just referenced earlier. When I got done, I was like, oh my gosh, how did that happen? That was so magical. Sandy just brings so much value and she has such an exuberance. There's just a way that she talks about things that I think people can relate to, and she's just really likable. And one of my favorite quotes from the episode is when Sandy says, "Everyone always talks about the end goal, which obviously you have to have that end goal in mind. But everybody wants to jump over to that end goal or the money side of it, or like, what's in it for me? They forget that you're winning viewers, you're winning fans one at a time. So if you can connect so deeply with one fan, they're going to feel compelled to tell their friend, and then it grows." I love that. It was such a powerful quote and a must listen. So go listen to that. Put it on your list if you haven't heard it already. The next one that stood out to me was a very recent one. This one was published just within the past few weeks, episode number 265 with Katarina Jubair. The title of the episode is From Ordinary Blogger to Powerhouse Influencer by Using Podcast and Video. Katarina is seriously one of my favorite YouTubers and Instagrammers. She creates the best, most fun videos. She just shows her personality in all of them, and she shines, and she's so creative. So one of my favorite quotes from that episode is this, when Katarina says, "Just that, adding a podcast alone is going to set you apart because it's giving you a voice where before you probably didn't have that much of a voice. It gives you a personality as well. The big difference is going from static content to highly interactive content." That captures the whole message of the podcast. And if you've ever even given a morsel of a thought to starting a podcast, which, by the way, I think you should in 2022, all of you listening, you should listen to this episode because it will tip you over the edge. She makes such a great case for food bloggers getting into this medium. So go give that a listen. And by the way, I just realized this. The last 3 episodes that I referenced are all with members of the podcast community I'm in. That's so crazy, but that just shows the power of community and networking and building connections. Yeah, super crazy. My next highlight episode, or series, I guess I should say, is one that I referenced a little bit earlier too, that was a fan favorite. And that is the series I did with Lauren Runyon about getting out of your comfort zone. And specifically, my favorite within that was the people episode. So episode number 264. One of my themes for 2021 going into it was people. And now at the end of, having finished 2021, looking back, I can see that so many people entered my life and stayed in my life in 2021. There was a reason that I set that theme, because I know how important it is to have people in your life who support you and love you and encourage you and inspire you and teach you and guide you and learn from you. That people are everything. And I say that on this podcast a lot, but I can't say it enough because it's so, so important. So that is why the people episode with Lauren was my favorite. If you haven't heard it, I highly encourage you to do that because I've gotten a lot of good feedback from others about it too. Actually, I have 2 favorite quotes from the episode, and I apologize. I don't know if it's me or Lauren saying these. I think there's one from each of us, and I'll be able to tell as I read it. Hold on. The first quote is, "If you want something, if you have big dreams and goals that you want to create in your life, it is absolutely mandatory for you to step out of your comfort zone." Okay, I think that was Lauren. So this one must be mine. "If we don't choose wisely, we can easily get broken by the people who are surrounding us. You need to play an active role in this. You can't just let people in willy-nilly as they come. You've got to occasionally stop and take a look around you and assess who these people are in your life and go from there." Another episode that just blew me away after I recorded it was episode number 263, another very recent one, with Justin Moore, about how food bloggers can charge what they're worth. Justin had such a unique outlook on working with brands, and he's achieved so much success in his own business that he just brought a new level of inspiration and information to the table for food bloggers to consume, I feel like. It was so good. Justin is amazing. He just shared so many good nuggets in the episode, so it was really hard for me to pick a quote. But here's a really good one that I like. Justin says, "I love using the word investment a lot as a creator because it implies that the brand is going to get something in return. So rather than saying cost or fee or rate or my price, it's not an expense working with you. It's an investment because they are going to get these amazing assets." Such a good thing to remember. You as a food blogger, by the way, Justin's quote finished. This is Megan talking now. You're an investment and you are an asset. The things that you provide are assets. Justin, thank you for reminding us of that. Another one is episode number 261. A lot of these are so recent. I feel like we've just been crushing it lately with Candace Probst from Tastemaker and This Vivacious Life. I love Candace. She's the best. She talked about delivering any pitch with confidence, and she shared so many great things about how to land that brand or sponsor deal that you want. Really tangible things that you can do, like getting people on a call. She closes 80% of her calls and 20% of her emails. So that alone is gold. And she gives so much more inside the episode. One of my favorite quotes inside her episode is, Candace says, "So number 1 is mindset. You have to believe it yourself before you can sell it. So in your mind, that's why it's good to hone in on what you're good at." Also, I will plug here, Candace and Abby from Tastemaker created a workshop that is a virtual workshop that I took in person in November and had so much wild success with it. I made 10 times the money I invested in the workshop. I highly recommend it. If you go to tastemaker.com, you should be able to find information about it. And we will also include a link to it within the show notes. And I believe Candace offers $50 off for eBlog Talk listeners, so mention that Megan sent you. This is for people who are looking to do sponsored work in 2022, who really want to make sure they land those deals that are lucrative and worthwhile and that you're passionate about. I loved my chat with Emily Perrin in episode number 243, where she talks about tapping into your zone of genius. Emily is a hiring expert that helps a ton of food bloggers, so many of you might be familiar with her. She's so great. She's such a lovely person, and she has so much knowledge about hiring and how to go about finding freelancers. I mean, you name it, she knows it. But this conversation in particular was really inspiring because she talks about your zone of genius. And if you don't know what that is, listen to the episode and you can tap into your own zone of genius. A quote from the episode that I pulled out is this. Emily says, "Because genius, when you are at the top of the pyramid, you are coming alive. You feel amazing. You're lit up. You're alive. You're energized. You love doing the work. You might be tired at the end of the day just from putting the work in, but it's not that same kind of drained, depleted, burnout way of being from the work." I'm getting to the end, I promise. Hang with me because I still have some really great ones to talk about. This episode is way longer than I thought it would be. Episode number 241 with Kim and Chelsea from 10K Under 10K. They're amazing, by the way. You should go follow them on Instagram. They talked about personalizing your pitch to land brand deals. And we just had the most fun chat. We did a Zoom call that I turned into an audio episode. I just loved my conversation with them. They're so smart. They are badass entrepreneurial businesswomen. They are so inspiring. And everything they shared in that episode is gold. So again, if you are looking to work with brands and to really hone in on what your pitch is, give that one a listen. Here's a quote from the episode. I believe this is from, well, it's either from Kim or Chelsea. Kim or Chelsea says, "So what we usually like to do is if a brand that is maybe newer to us, we make sure we follow them. We make sure we're engaging with their posts and engaging with their stories so that you're getting in to their DMs and you can really organically get that conversation flowing. Once you've been doing that for a little bit of time, we always recommend at least a month or so you're really on their radar and it doesn't feel spammy. Then you can reach out." Episode 239 with Shruthi Baskaran. This was also a fan favorite, so one worth listening to. And I believe, actually, I take that back. I mean, it was a fan favorite, actually, but it's also the second most listened to episode in 2021. Pretty amazing. Shruthi talks about going from 0 to 75K sessions in 15 months, focusing just on SEO. So the perspective of the blogger focusing on that topic of SEO, I think is really valuable inside this episode. She gives some really tangible ways that we can do that are digestible and easy to understand and very doable. One of my favorite quotes from the episode is this. Shruthi says, "This is probably the most important thing out of all my lessons, which was to really marry your content calendar and your keyword research. What I mean by that is instead of cooking the recipes that I wanted to cook and then trying to find keywords to optimize them, I built a content calendar that passes what I call a keyword sniff test." Brilliant. I love it. Last but not least, episode number 172 with Lexi Harrison. She talked about Instagram growth strategies for 2021, and I believe these still apply here in 2022. If you go to Lexi's account on Instagram, so go to Crowded Kitchen, you'll see what I mean. She has such a variety of photos and styles that she puts up on her account, and I think that's really appealing to the eye. And one of the reasons that she's gained a ton of traction on Instagram, if you look at her follower count, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But inside this episode, she gives us some really tangible tips about how to make your content stand out by using different styles. So one of my favorite quotes supports this message, and that is this. Lexi says, use a variety of styles on Instagram: still photos, portrait, landscape, close-up crops, hero shots, etc. Stop motion videos, reels, longer form videos, carousels, etc. That is all. Thank you for hanging with me with all of this. There was so much good stuff in 2021 that it was really hard for me to condense it all. I love every single interview I do. If I didn't, I wouldn't put them up as episodes. So it was really hard to just pick out a few of my favorites. Just real quick before we say goodbye, I thought we could touch on what's on deck for 2022. What is changing this year? What's sticking around and all of that. A couple noteworthy things here. So the podcast is not going anywhere. It will be here. That is going to be a main focus of mine. The mastermind groups are going to be a main focus as well, and I'm going to create extras, as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode. So stay tuned for those. The retreats are going to be increased, so if you're interested in that, let me know. Those are so powerful and awesome. As far as the podcast goes, I decided not to do any more replays. All new episodes will be coming your way. And instead of doing replays, I will dig into my archives and find those golden gems and just post them on social media. Also, I will be doing fewer solo episodes, so episodes like this, because they don't get as much traction as the interviews. So more of a focus on those interviews coming up in 2022. Also, I want to focus on more of what you want. So please tell me, do you like certain guests? Is there somebody that you want to hear from that hasn't been on the show? Are there certain topics that we need to cover that we haven't covered? Or maybe dig into a certain topic more in depth? You tell me, and I will start asking too in my weekly emails. Be sure to get on the Eat Blog Talk email list. I send out one email a week that talks about the episodes. I usually give insider information in there too about things coming up. So go to eatblogtalk.com to get in on that. I also had this really crazy idea the other day that I don't know that I'll follow through with, but I figure by putting it out there, maybe an answer will come to me more quickly. And some of you might think I'm completely crazy for even considering this. Coming up in May of 2022 will be my 300th episode, which is nuts and so awesome. I'm so excited that we've gotten almost to 300. But I had this thought, I don't know why the number 3 keeps popping up for me. At 300, should we start publishing 3 episodes a week? Is that nuts? It wouldn't be that much extra time for me to record 4 additional interviews a month. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I'm crazy or if you would love that. And then what is missing? You tell me. Reach out in any channel. You can reach out on Instagram. I'm in there. Nobody else is in there. Send me a DM. Send me an email at megan@eatblogtalk.com. Anytime, I reply to every single person who emails me. And one last thing is, if you know of anyone who would be interested in being a podcast assistant, reach out to me for that as well, because I think I finally need to hire someone to help on that front. And that would entail guest management, email management, social media management, and maybe even social media creation, graphic creation. I would probably still edit all of my episodes because I can do that really fast. Basically everything else besides recording, editing. If that interests you, let me know. It would require someone who is really organized, detail-oriented, really upbeat, friendly, positive personality. You guys are amazing. Thank you for getting through this whole episode. I hope it was valuable, at least a little bit. Thank you for being with me in 2021. And here's to an awesome 2022. I cannot wait to start digging into this year even more and see what awesome things lie in store. I wish the best for every one of you. And thank you again so much for being a part of this journey with me. You're all incredible. Okay, food bloggers, I will talk to you in the next episode. See you later.
We're glad you could join us on this episode of Eat Blog Talk. For more resources based on today's discussion, as well as show notes and an opportunity to be on a future episode of the show, be sure to head to eatblogtalk.com. If you feel that hunger for information, we'll be here to feed you on Eat Blog Talk.
Number 4 is episode number 227, Food Blog SEO versus Recipe SEO with Leanne Walker. Another incredible episode on the theme of SEO. And she delivers some really great information about what recipe SEO means and how to really get your recipe card honed in so that Google favors your content a little bit more. And number 5 was episode number 170 with Debbie Gartner, titled Affiliate Marketing Strategies That Work. Now, Debbie's story, if you have not listened to this, you need to go listen to it because it is an incredible story of just finding money through affiliate income out of necessity. She was in a really tough spot financially, and she openly talks about that in the episode. And she talks about how she dug into affiliate marketing and made it work on a really successful level. So be sure to listen to that one.